Hello everyone, my name is Christian Bradley and I will be your instructor for this course. This course is going to cover the basics of the Max 3ds software, which you see here on the screen. The course is intended for beginners, so if you have some experience with the software, you might want to skip ahead a few videos to get to where you're at. But we're going to start at the very basics, so if you do not have any experience with 3D software at all, then you are in the right place. This first video is going to cover some of the basic interface commands and just kind of look over the tools and the viewports that you have to work with here. We will get into the modeling and some of the more tricky stuff as we move through the videos. So we'll get some of the introductions out of the way. Like I said, my name is Christian Bradley. I've been a teacher of 3D software for the last 12 years at numerous colleges, but I've also been here at the Game Institute for a long time teaching 3ds Max software in general. I worked on many video games, about 40 video games in total. Most of those I was a contractor, and I owned my own company for a long period of time after working in-house at 4 companies. And without going too much into all the games that I worked on, some of which are very good and some of which really weren't, the big highlights were I worked on the Unreal series of games as a contractor, mostly as a texture artist for those games. I worked on Ultima 3D as a contractor, building creature models for that game. I did the texture ports for Metal Gear Solid for the PC, which was an interesting one, and I did most of the artwork for Scooby-Doo and New-Doo, which was a Game Boy Advance game. So there was other games mixed in there that I'll mention as we move along, but those were probably my favorites. So let's take a look at this Max software and get started. What you see on the screen here is what your Max will probably look like when you get it booted up and started. You'll see there's kind of this dark gray interface with some of these menus at the top, along here, over on this side. There's lots of buttons going on here. Don't get intimidated by all the buttons. We're only going to be using a small portion of these to get started, and we'll add all of these buttons as we move through the course. By the end of this first module, we will have covered almost all the buttons up here at the top, a lot of buttons here in the graphite editor, and quite a bit of the command panel. If you take a look over here at the right where my mouse is, this is where we're going to be spending most of our time. So these big quad areas here that you're probably looking at in Max, these are called viewports. And you can see they're labeled. This is the top, the front, left perspective viewports. We're going to poke around in these viewports in this video. So also get used to clicking with your mouse. And you see as I left click with my mouse, those viewports are being highlighted by a yellow frame, or kind of an ugly yellow, dirty yellow here. That means that that viewport is selected. So to start with, try left clicking there on the viewports and just see if you see that yellow highlighted frame, and we'll be on our way. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the viewport color. This dark gray that is now the default with 3ds Max is hard to see in the videos. The contrast makes the wording kind of hard to see. Plus the grids make it overly complex for our videos. Now you don't need to change the color. If you like the dark gray, that's fine. But the first thing I'm going to do on mine is change the color. And that's under Customize. And again, I'm just left clicking up here. And I'm going to go to Load Custom UI Scheme. Click on that. By default, Mac should go to its UI folder. You can see the path here if it does not. And I'm going to click on this AME Light and just hit open. And Max is going to flash here for a second and load the new interface. And what we are left with is this lighter gray, which is what you're going to see in the rest of the videos. So if you don't want to change yours to this light gray, that's fine. All the buttons are the same. Nothing different about it. It's just a different color. So now I think you can see it better on the videos. Okay, so let's take a look here at what we've got to work with. In this first video, again, we're not really going to make anything. We're just going to take a quick tour. So up here at the very top left corner is where your save buttons are, right there. This is open file, new scene. Here's your undo and redo buttons, very important ones right there. And here's your project folder settings. We'll come back to this guy. Also under this green button in the very top left, if I drop this down, you can see we get a lot of the same commands. You'll see me using this button to save and reset and open scenes, mainly because these icons are bigger and you can see them on the screen better. So down below that, we've got the main toolbar, and there's a couple drop downs. All these here, you can left click on them and scroll across, and you'll see that you get a lot of different commands, a whole bunch. Some of these we're going to go over. These are organized by what the action would be. So you can see here's rendering, here's your graph editors, animation is one that you probably are familiar with. Here's your modifiers. All of these we're going to find in other places too. Max has a lot of different places to keep the tools. So think of it as different drawers that the tools are set in. So underneath that is your toolbars. And these guys here are where we're going to have a lot of quick access to some of our favorite tools. So for instance, over here is scale, rotate, move. There's select. There's our select by name. We're going to be using these quite a bit. There's key commands for most of these, not all of them, but for most of them. There's so many buttons in Max that not everything actually has a key command, but you can set up your own key commands if you like. Way over here to the right is the command panel. The command panel has these tabs, and you can see by default create is on, but I can left click on these tabs and there's little drop downs there that we'll get. Also something that we'll go over real quick here, when you see a drop down that goes down too far, and your screen may be set up to a different resolution than mine, so yours may be cut off here, you may see more down here than I do. See that little hand as I kind of scroll around to an open part of the interface? I can left click and push with that little hand, and I can scroll up and down in these long interfaces. So as you get really long interfaces, I can kind of push the menu up to access stuff down below. There's also a little slider bar over here to the side. It's hard to see. It's a light gray slider bar, and you can use that too, but it's kind of hard to hit that. It's an awfully small target. So, but you can click on these and you can kind of look at what we're going to be doing in there. Also down below over here on the left is your graphite editor. In this area, nothing is available to us now because we don't have any objects. But the graphite editor will give us some more advanced modeling tools, and we'll be getting into the graphite editor in about 10 videos or so. So it'll give us some quicker tools to use. Okay, so that's going to give you kind of a main overview of the Max interface. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next video where we'll drag out some shapes and we'll start looking at some of the modeling tools that we have.